for making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, well, that would be a false report to the police, because my allegations about Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists are by no means unfounded. They're very truthful and supported by all kinds of evidence, including court records. So this would be a false report to the police if the UUA made a report to police to have me arrested for blasphemous libel for blogging about Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists. So that's how it's borderline criminal. It's also batshit crazy for obvious reasons. But one of the other things about the Unitarian Universalist Association's false blasphemous libel accusation against me, which may not be obvious or known to people who don't know anything about Unitarian Universalism, is that Unitarian Universalists have a centuries-old tradition, or I should say had a centuries-old tradition of opposing blasphemy laws, because they were considered to be heretics by Trinitarian Christians. Unitarians denied the doctrine of the Trinity, and therefore were considered to be heretics by Trinitarian Christians, which are the dominant group of Christianity. The vast majority of Christians are Trinitarians. They believe in the Trinity of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And then the Universalists were preaching universal salvation. They weren't saying hell didn't exist, but they're basically saying nobody goes to hell as a result of Jesus' sacrifice. And this was a heretical position in terms of most of Christianity. Certainly back in the day it was. So a certain number of Unitarians, a certain number of Universalists were charged with violating blasphemy laws. Some were jailed. At least one was burned at the stake. For centuries, Unitarians and Universalists have opposed blasphemy laws because they were the victims of blasphemy laws. But then, in the spring of 2012, UUA President, Reverend Dr. Peter Morales, and UUA Executive Vice President, Kathleen K. Montgomery, and I would presume a fair number of other leading members of the Unitarian Universalist Association, decided to end that tradition of opposing blasphemy laws by falsely accusing me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in legal bullying, which was clearly intended to conceal such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers from the public. So yes, pretty ignominious end to the centuries-old tradition of opposing blasphemy laws. I should add that I recently made that point to new UUA President, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. I was able to post a few comments on her Facebook account and, made that point, that the Unitarian Universalist Association's blasphemous libel accusation against me, which has yet to be formally withdrawn by the UUA, not only violated the second and fourth principles of Unitarian Universalism, if not a few others, it literally put an end to that centuries-old tradition of opposing blasphemy laws, because the UUA was no longer opposing blasphemy laws. It was actually trying to misuse Canada's blasphemy law in legal bullying intended to hide rape. They threatened to have me charged with the criminal act of blasphemous libel if I did not remove the blog posts about Unitarian Universalists who've been charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, as per their cease and desist demand letter. So the new UUA President, Susan Frederick Gray, has been put on notice that I still expect the Unitarian Universalist Association to formally withdraw that false blasphemous libel accusation and to very publicly apologize for that false blasphemous libel accusation, and also to clearly identify every Unitarian Universalist minister who's being charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and perhaps throw in other serious sexual assault with that, and also to state how many other Unitarian Universalist ministers have been credibly accused of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape and other serious sexual assault, even if they have not actually been charged, tried, and convicted. Because you can be sure that there are some other ministers who were never charged, who were never convicted, obviously because they were never charged, yet who have in fact been credibly accused by victims and complainants of, rape, pedophilia, or other serious sexual assault. In other words, unwanted sexual activity, not just, unwanted sexual advances, not just verbal stuff, but actual physical sexual assault on them. So we'll see what comes of that, but so far things look reasonably promising on that front. So far, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray has not deleted my comments, which I actually warned her against doing. I basically said, look, if you delete these comments, that makes you complicit with the Unitarian Universalist Association's misuse of blasphemy law and the cover-up and denial of pedophilia and rape and so on. If you hide this by deleting my comments, well, then you're knowingly and willfully complicit in it. So far she hasn't. I haven't checked, but the last time I did check, last night, the comments were still there, still visible, and of course I reproduced them on the Emerson Avenger blog. Let's see where we are in the video here. Yeah, getting towards the end. I thought we were coming to the end of another half-hour segment. I also want to make sure it was still recording. So basically what it comes down to is I am hopeful that Reverend Susan Frederick Gray and other leading members of the Unitarian Universalist Association and the new or semi-new makeup of the UA Board of Trustees, because there's been some changeover, but there's also, people who were there, a year or two or three ago, that the current makeup of the Unitarian Universalist Association's Board of Trustees will come to their senses and realize that they can no longer, try to hide this and try to pretend it didn't happen and do absolutely nothing about it, which has been the case, since I complained about it. I brought it to the attention of the UUA Board of Trustees. I brought it to the attention of UUA moderator Jeannie Corder very soon after it happened in 2012. I brought it to the attention of UUA moderator Jim Key in 2013, if not earlier. I brought it to the attention of successive compositions of the UUA Board of Trustees in emails and so on. And yet they did absolutely nothing to ensure that the UUA withdrew the blasphemous libel accusation, apologized for it, told the truth about how many ministers are guilty of pedophilia and rape and so on, and held Reverend Dr. Peter Morales accountable for his unethical behavior, to say nothing of Kathleen K. Montgomery, who was most certainly involved in this. So we'll see what happens with the new UUA president and the new UUA Board of Trustees. And, I'm not naive. It's possible that they will just continue to do nothing. But I have some grounds to believe that Susan Frederick Gray may just step up to the plate and take a responsible leadership position that, no, we have to do something about this. We can't let this drag on. We need to acknowledge the truth and deal with the situation instead of pretending it's, not important and so on. So we'll see what happens in the coming days, weeks, and months. See what arises out of my Facebook posts. And I'm really, really hoping that Susan Frederick Gray will essentially, at minimum, not memory hole those comments. So those comments should remain visible on her Facebook account. They're not in-your-face rude. I didn't, put the whole Emerson Avenger in-your-face rude, obnoxious act into them. They were, pretty blunt in some ways. They didn't mince words. Put it that way. They weren't, to my, from my perspective, I was just telling the truth in no uncertain terms. But I wasn't like nasty about it. I was essentially just not sugarcoating the truth. And so I really hope that Reverend Susan Frederick Gray will realize that these blog posts are not attacking her. They're essentially calling upon her to do the right thing. And as I said, we'll see what comes of that soon enough. So, yeah, we just got about a minute and a half left of recording time left in a half-hour segment. So I'm debating if I want to stay here any longer, be protesting for a full hour. Okay, here comes what looks to be most likely a Unitarian. I suspect that this is Harvey Shepherd coming his way here. I could be mistaken. My eyesight's not perfect, but I do believe this looks like it could be Harvey Shepherd coming this way. Yeah, the closer he gets, the more sure I am. So we got a nod and smile from Harvey. Harvey, by the way, is former religion columnist for the Gazette. And, he's known about this fiasco for quite some time now, even before the whole blasphemous libel thing came about in June of 2012. He was aware of my protest. I can't remember exactly when he started attending the Unitarian Church in Montreal and eventually joined it, but it's been quite some time now. I'd say at least a decade. So he's known about my protest. I'd say for at least a decade. Well, actually, he's known about it for longer than that. I mean, he knew about it even before he began attending, and